Philippine History, presented by Stephanie de Los Angeles, Josephine Concepcion, Alpha Bagorio, and Regine Domingo. Pre-colonial era. During the Philippines pre-colonial period, indigenous people engaged in healthy trade and various cultures and economies in the region. Women shared equal footing with men in society. Pre-colonial form of government. Before the Spaniards came into the Philippines, there were existing cultures of the Filipinos which were not distinguished by most of the Filipinos, especially for the newborn Filipino citizens. As the unit of the government, a barangay consists from 30 to 100 families. In Spanish period, there are 4 reasons why Spanish colonizes the Philippines. The first one is it is the only colony in the Asia. Second is to acquire a share in the spice trade. Third is to develop contacts with China and Japan in order to further Christian missionary efforts there. Fourth, to convert the Filipinos to Christianity. American occupation. United States improved the economy and system of government, whereas the Filipinos had greater political participation and more economic gains. The American rule caused great marks of colonial mentality and the materialistic and individualistic ways among many Filipinos.
The American rule. American colonial policy in the Philippines was unique in the world of colonialism because of the following reasons. First, the Americans said that they would go as soon as the Filipinos could stand on their own as a free nation. From the beginning, American officials didn't want to hold onto the Philippines as a colony forever.
Second, the Americans were kinder and more generous than other colonial powers of the same era, such as Germany, Netherlands, France, or Britain. The Americans shared power with the Filipinos in the government. Third, the Filipinos adopted American ways very well. No other former colony liked its other country as much as the Filipinos like the United States. The Declaration of Independence. With the government in operation, Aguinaldo thought that it was necessary to declare independence of the Philippines. He believed that such a move would inspire the other people to fight eagerly against the Spaniards and at the same time lead the foreign countries to recognize the independence of the country. Contemporary history. After the birth of freedom, the Americans returned in 1945. Filipino rejoiced and guerrilleros who fled to the mountain joined the liberating American army. Only July 4, 1946, the Philippines regained his freedom in the Filipino flag with joyously alone. The chains were broken and the Philippines were finally free.
Cultural tradition and heritage, Filipino traits and values. The Filipino value system and traits refers to the set of values that a majority of the Filipino have historically held important in their lives. This Philippine value system includes their own unique assemblage of consistent ideologies, moral codes, ethical practices, etiquette, and cultural and personal values that are promoted by their society. As with any society though, the values that an individual holds sacred can differ on the basis of their religion, upbringing, and other factors. The following are the core values of a Filipino. First is family. The family is the center of the Filipino community. Children are not expected to leave their parents' house until they themselves get married, and even after that, many couples opt to stay with or close to their spouse's parents. Second, politeness. Politeness is highly valued in Filipino culture and the language can express it in different ways. The use of honorific particles po and ho in Tagalog, as you have observed from the dialogue, is an important sign of respect. They are used when speaking with an older person or with strangers. Third, hospitality. This is one of the most well-known Filipino characteristics. Foreign visitors to the Philippines also fall in love with the country's hospitality. Next is gratitude. Gratitude still persists in the Filipino psyche. You give a Filipino a favor and they will surely remember it even if they already returned the favor. Next is shame. It is also known as hiya. Flexibility. Filipinos have a great capacity to adjust to circumstances and the surrounding environment, both physical and social. Next, loyalty. Filipinos are said to be loyal to their friends and fellow men in order to ensure the peace in the group. This is manifested in their basic sense of justice and fairness and concern for others' well-being. Filipinos recognize the essential humanity of all people and regard others with respect and empathy. Next is hard work. Filipinos are hardworking to the fact that they are willing to work several times to almost whole day just to feed their families. And last, resignation or bahala na is a socio-cultural value in the Philippines as well as a praising in Filipino language that is either said as an expression of a fatalistic attitude towards life or as a determined one in a challenging situation where things are risky and uncertain. It can be translated to mean whatever happens, happens. Next is form of worship. The Philippines proudly boasts to be the only Christian nation in Asia. More than 86% of the population is Roman Catholic, 6% belong to the various nationalized Christian cults, and other 2% belong to well over 100 Protestant denominations. The following are the forms of worship. And last, we have festivals. Philippine festivals are celebrations to express gratitude for a good harvest in honor of the town's patron saint. For many Filipinos, fiestas are important because of the miraculous power of the saints. It is believed that the saints are responsible for all the good fortune and favor one receives.
The national symbols in the Philippines. First, heroes. The National Heroes Committee recommended 8 individuals to be recognized as national heroes on November 15, 1995, and these are Jose Rizal, Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Aguinaldo, Apolinario Mabini, Marcelo H. Del Pilar, Muhammad Dipatuan Kudarat, Juan Luna, and Melchora Aquino. The second national symbols in the Philippines is literary writers, and these are Estrella Alfon, Francisco Arceliana, Liwayway A. Arceo, Francisco Balagtas, Luwalhati Bautista, Cecilia Manguera Brainerd, Resid Mojares, and Carlos Bolosan. The third one is the Filipino flag. Did you know that the 3 stars stands for the 3 big islands of the Philippines, namely Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao? As for the colors used, white represents hope for equality, while the blue stripe stands for peace, truth, and justice. Lastly, the red stripe symbolizes patriotism and valor. And for the last category under the national symbols in the Philippines is the national costume. The official national costume of Filipino men is the barong Tagalog. The upper garment of the boy in the picture is a barong. It is worn over a Chinese collarless shirt called camisa de chino. The boy is also wearing the traditional wide-brimmed hat salakot, which is usually made of rattan or reeds, while the official national costume of Filipino women is the baro at saya, also known as barot saya. The baro is the top blouse and the saya is the skirt.
Places and events. Here in the Philippines, we have historical scenic spots. We have Rizal Park, Hari Crisologo, Leyte Landing Monument, Sandugo Shrine, Fort Santiago, Fort San Pedro, Mactan Shrine, and Corregidor Island. Philippine Historical Timeline. In c. 40,000 BC, migrants crossed land bridge from Asian mainland and settled in the archipelago. In AD 900, Chinese established coastal trading posts over the next 300 years. Late 14th century, Muslim clergy start to bring Islam to the Philippines from Indonesia and Malaysia. In 1521, explorer Ferdinand Magellan lands on Cebu and claims the region for Spain, Lapu-Lapu, and as we call Raha ki Lapu-Lapu. In defending his islands of Mactan, slays Magellan. In 1543, next Spanish expedition led by Ruy de Villalobos lands in Mindanao. He names the archipelago Filipinas after Crown Prince Felipe II. In 1872, uprising in Cavite, south of Manila, Spain executes Filipino priest Jose Burgos, Mariano Gomez, and Jacinto Zamora, martyrs to the cause of nationalism. In 1892, Jose Rizal founds La Liga Filipina and is arrested and exiled to Dapitan, Mindanao. Andres Bonifacio founds sa Katipunan with aim to revolt. In 1896, Spanish colonists imprison and kill hundreds of Filipinos in Manila. Bonifacio and the Katipunan launched the Philippine Revolution. Rizal is executed. In 1898, the United States defeats Spain in war. Treaty between the United States and Spain grants the U.S. authority over the Philippines. In 1941 to 1942, Japanese lands on Luzon overrun Manila. Roosevelt rejects Philippine neutrality. In 1944, MacArthur and Osmeña land in Leyte and begin the Allied effort to retake the archipelago. In 1945, Allies recapture Manila, which is subject to intense bombardment. Much of the city is destroyed. In 1946, on July 4, the Philippines is granted independence. In 1972 to 1981, martial law imposed. President Marcos accumulates a vast fortune. His wife Imelda dominates Manila government. In 1984, Parliament of the Street hold frequent anti-Marcos demonstration, spiraling economic crisis. In 1986, violence escalates before election. At least 30 are killed on election day. Election rigging enraged Filipinos and millions join in uprising against Marcos regime. On February 26, Marcos flee. Corazon Aquino elected to presidency. New constitution drafted. In 1991, dramatic eruption of Mount Pinatubo, Americans pack up and leave the Philippines. In 1992, Fidel Ramos Aquino's defense secretary and a strong ally who backed her during coup attempts, wins presidential election. His pragmatic leadership defies traditional perception of inept Filipino government. Foreign investors return. In 2002, U.S. military joins the Philippines in large-scale exercises in the southern Philippines to rescue kidnapped American tourists. In 2010, Benigno Aquino III, son of former President Corazon Aquino, wins the presidential race. A year later, his government holds landmark talks with Muslim rebels. And in 2012, China and the Philippines clash over Scarborough Shoal in the contested South China Sea, seeding a high-level diplomatic dispute, breakthrough ceasefire and agreement in the long-running dispute with separatists in the south.